We are live. Welcome to the damn show, the Digital Art Market Show. I am Roger Dickerman, RD, presented with 24 Hours of Art and Super Rare, powered by Gandhi. And already, here they are in the flesh, the digital flesh. John Watkinson, Matt Hall, Larva Labs. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. Thanks for having us.
hmm
It's a pleasure. I don't take it lightly. The week of mints, whether it's during or before, they always come with their own bundle of stuff, both preparatory items and possibly some nerves. We'll talk about all of that, of course, but I don't take it lightly. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, no
No,
problem.
happy to
Yeah.
be here. Yep.
All right, so I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to do this before Snowfro gets here because he shared a quote, and there, of course, is Quine. We're going to get to that in just a second. Setting the table. By the way, Matt and John here with us now. Snowfro and Natalie Stone joining us at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's start with this. Make you guys maybe the ears go a little bit red here. There's a 100% chance Art Blocks would not exist today if it were not for Matt Hall and John Watkinson launching CryptoPunks in 2017. And people can read that quote, of course, on their own. But the downstream effects are remarkable, is what I want to focus on here. Guys, it's 2025. That's a long time ago. And we have seen many of those downstream effects, including, as Snowfro was referring to here, art blocks unfold since. How do you reflect on that?
Yeah, that's amazing to hear him say that. And obviously, I think we said this before when we've interviewed that a lot. When we launched CryptoPunks, we were excited by it and thought it was cool and everything, but we didn't fully understand it until it was kind of pitched back to us by the community themselves. And Snowfro was a big part of that. Where we sort of learned, just kind of how deep all this could go and how important this would become to some people, how much of a community would form around it. Like that was, that we all kind of discovered that in the aftermath of CryptoPunks.
Yeah, and I think maybe one of the things that's sort of most one of our favorite things, or at least one of my favorite things that's been a downstream effect, is that there is a market for digital art that didn't exist before. And I think it's safe to say a number of artists that's their career now because this market exists. Not there's Once again, there's been digital art for decades. There's a long history there, but in terms of there being like a market with a significant collector base and significant sort of ability for people to sort of support their careers, I think has been like probably the coolest part about it.
It's interesting. I'm going to go to a quote soon from Toledo. I had a chance to see both of you guys there. You were on stage there with Adam Levine and Martina, Joe Lubin, Ethereum co-founder. And you did talk there, Matt, like what you're saying now, value being ascribed to something. It was important to see that
hmm
as a step.
hmm I think so. And there's always like a little bit of a hesitation, or at least a little bit of a avoidance of value, monetary value and artistic value, and having those two things sort of be too close together, potentially. And I think partly what's kind of interesting to us about, like, let's say the CryptoPunks, is that they've forced those two things to coexist. But in terms of like the digital art market, I think it's really something that, like, it's just important for the health of it, for people to be able to make a living doing it, and I think there's been, digital artists that I've been fans of for decades that, the way you monetize or try to earn some money from what you're doing is you sell like a poster or something, like, but it almost felt like merch at the band table versus the real thing, buying the record kind of thing. And I think what this has become, like, these like sort of on-chain digital editions of generative work, feels like the real deal. Like that feels like the album, and I feel that as a collector too, that's something I'm now looking for, which was actually a weird sort of experience to rediscover it, sort of as in like first person as a collector, being like, even trying to buy, like, let's say a photograph or something, and not understanding the editing, and be like, why don't they just have it, why can't I just see how many there are, why is this complicated? So that's been a really interesting and I think pretty cool experience.
Isn't it incredible to think that that album didn't exist in that form for the decades of digital art prior?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Right. Yeah. And yeah, even though there was all this cool stuff happening, they're just, I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of people were subsisting by some day job as a developer or doing contract work, that kind of thing. And there just wasn't like a compelling way yet to edition and sell the work. And then even this relationship, we'll get into this a little more maybe, but the relationship between your generator and the outputs and the collectors, like very often before it was just like, oh, I made a generator that's over here, nobody sees that, and then I generated some nice outputs and I made prints or something like that. That might have been a typical way of doing generative art. And then now to kind of flip that on its head, where it's like, no, the artist just puts forth the generator and they have to kind of stand um, they have to kind of stand with their generator no matter what no matter what it outputs, and they have to be very sure of what it's going to do, because they're not going to have control
Mhm.
over it running. That's a really cool and powerful effect. And if we feel it, with this project, we feel that, coming up, it's like Matt and I were saying, it's kind of like a live performance, like, so we've been, for the last couple of months, we've been doing these like almost like dress rehearsals, where it's like, let's generate 500 outputs or whatever, and then I don't like that one. That one, that didn't work, or
Mhm.
that one had a problem. Sometimes with this, because there's tech involved in our things too, we had some that like basically crashed, the equivalent of like a crashing program and everything. And so it's like, we can't have that, like, and but so then, even though now we're quite confident, we've been running it so many times that we haven't, made changes for a couple months now, even. But those are all still dress rehearsals. You don't know what's going to happen the day of the show, kind of, and that's a really thrilling
Mhm.
and cool element of this.
You say it's really thrilling, and there's Matt getting ready, right, to mint and reveal the first Quine number 0.
It
Yeah,
really
you get used to them being, when you're the creator, you get used to them being kind of like infinite. It's like, make more, and then all of a sudden now it's like we're making the first real one,
Yeah,
and it's just like it's
sweating a little
frozen
bit
in
over
amber.
here.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Oh
It
God.
really is. It really is. And that is like, there's something that kind of interesting about that, because like, up until that point, it's interesting that that feels different, right? And that was sort of like the whole thing we were trying to find out. And we underestimate that notion. And it's like, yeah, we're just making some software and it's running on my laptop and it's running whatever. And then the fact that there's a feeling of it being real and permanent, and that feels crazy. I mean, that's part of what makes all this work, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's.
And I think we got a bit blindsided by that with Autoglyph, right? Because
Mhm.
CryptoPunks, we generated them ahead of time. That was sort of the old model. Even though we
Mhm.
didn't, modify or filter that output at all from CryptoPunks, we could have. That was all done behind closed doors. Um, but then with Autoglyphs, we sort of realized in the middle of the minute, it's like, oh wait, we have no idea what's going to come out of this, and there were some surprises, like
Yeah.
things like the bear glyph and stuff like that. Like there were some weird outputs that we just hadn't seen before, and so that was our first taste of that kind of experience, which now, many art blocks artists have experienced that feeling.
Yeah, that the we said this before, but like sort of the idea behind Autoglyph, so the reason we made it was really just to answer some questions that we were getting with CryptoPunks. Like, it wasn't even clear that people understood that CryptoPunks was generative, and also we couldn't really prove it. Like, I guess we could have drawn all those things. Um, and so this was an attempt to be like, to formalize that, but also just be like, oh, is it possible to like, answer yes to those questions? Like, where is the art? Is it on chain? Yes. Where's the generator? Can I see it? Yes. And did I, provably run this thing to generate the art? And so we got to yes on all those questions, and didn't quite realize that that's what we were doing, that we were formalizing that relationship between, creator and generator, until we were in the middle of the mint, probably, is when that dawned on us.
Yeah.
And now here we are reflecting. And the other quote I wanted to read, and it's from you, John, from Toledo. It was, quote, "We don't expect to be really prolific. We expect a few years between every project we do. That's in our DNA, to keep it about
Yeah.
what are the new things we can do with the tech." And I think it's fascinating. Again, 2017 being CryptoPunks, 2019 being Autoglyphs, 21 being Meebits. This is with respect, of course, to Protoglyph, Voxelglyph, I Love LA, a few of the additions that you've done. But the larger projects, now we're here on the doorstep of number 4, and it's been 4 years.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely Matt's and my philosophy is kind of only when it's ready, only when it feels right. We are constantly prototyping, like we always have projects that we're working on, but some of those languish for a long time, before we actually or forever. They just never make it out of that kind of prototyping phase. And so that's sort of our attitude, is just to kind of try a variety of things, follow our nose, follow what's interesting and new about the tech. And then just if something really turns the corner, then we go for it. And this one was a little different because this was, Eric coming to us and saying, do you guys want to close out Curated? So that kind of put pressure on us that we don't normally do. It's like, oh wait, we'll need to do something right now. And so we pushed him off for a while before we said yes, because we were like, it has to be something kind of worthy of that honor. And it was only maybe a few weeks later we stopped. We were like looking at our kind of prototype stuff we were working on, stuff that we found interesting, and just none of it seemed just to click until we kind of started down this avenue of like, how do we surface the code? How do we feature the code? And then all of a sudden it started to kind of click with this Quine notion and everything. And only then did we kind of excitedly call up Eric and say, we're in, we got something here, so.
And you guys
but
are
yeah, we
quoted
don't
as,
take lightly these large projects. Yeah.
You guys had mentioned, and when we're quoted as saying it was a bit uncomfortable to look at the vastness of art blocks and to say, hey, there's so much that's possible here. What the heck do we do with this opportunity? When was that first click moment, right, that you referred to, where you said, all right, we have it now and we can go back to Snowfro and say, we're in?
I'm trying to think back to it, because we had gone through a few ideas we were prototyping. We told Eric, like, just give us a minute to figure it out, because I don't want to say yes and then feel stuck. We don't have a good idea for this. So there's definitely a couple ideas that we got pretty far on, and we're like, and we work fairly quickly when we're doing this stuff. So, we can sort of get to a point where we know if an idea is going to work within maybe even a few days of trying it out, so. And then I think John, you were sort of mentioning, like, reminding me of like this like kind of notion of Quine and self-generation and replication, and that seemed like a really cool concept, and I think that's when we were like, oh yeah, that feels right directionally, and we just got to figure out how it fits, visually and all that kind of thing. But
the because we were saying, really the theme of art blocks to us is this idea that the art is the code, that's what the artists put out there. They don't put out visual work, they just put out the code, and the visuals follow out of their control. So we're like, all right, we want it to be about code, but how do we make that real? How do we make it not just like a poster that is code, but something that actually is kind of fundamental to the artwork? And then once we you kind of dusted off that Quine idea, which was from, that term was coined, I think, in the late 80s, early 90s by Douglas Hofstadter in a book that we had read back when we were teenagers, probably, that was always in the back of our minds, because it's kind of like a cool computer science concept. It's hard to do, like, if you just, without looking it up or getting Chat GPT to help or something like that, if you just try to write one in your language of choice, it's sort of like devilishly tricky to do. And so it's kind of just this like fun computer science concept. And so then it's like, oh, if we could take that and kind of extend it to add like a visual element, but still make it very much like a code listing, I think really everything started to click. And then it's almost like then the answers start to flow. Like, how will it look? How are we going to, all the how questions start to have answers right away once the concept works, once the concept feels right.
Let's set the stage, because I think it's almost mint time. This is Quine. It's the final art block. Sorry, Matt.
You get a little indigestion there.
The final Art Blocks Curated project, 497 outputs ultimately. And the first one, which is number 0, is about to be created. John, maybe a good time. Shall we pull up a little screen share of some of the possibilities and some of the
Yeah,
outputs?
and if Matt, you want to kind of do your thing in the background there, I'll just kind of show this. So this is what I'm going to show here, and is it's visible now, right? Yeah, this is sort of what we look at, what we have been looking at over the last several months when we sort of preview outputs, So this is sort of like a typical set. I think this is 500 of them. And so this is what we're sort of endlessly reviewing. We've made, I don't know how many of these sets that we made and then reviewed, found problems, found things we didn't like, and then revisited, rerun it again. But so yeah, this is just like a kind of a typical set. This is the final algorithm that's now on the ArtPlots platform. So here's one of them kind of zoomed in. Just zoom a little more. So you can see it's just made up of these squares. We have the actual text is in here. You can actually even like highlight this text insanely. I mean, this is actual live text. So you could, select all of this text and paste it into a JavaScript console and run it. And if you do that, it will work. It will make the next generation of in place within this SVG. It'll just make the next one. So it's sort of like live real code that's running. This is, we call this subliminal when the code is built into these colored squares. There's an alternative version, which we call liminal, where the text appears outside of the squares. This is a little more rare when this occurs, and it makes the code even more obvious, even more kind of dramatic against the background. And then I'll just show a few more things here. There's different engines because we have this. Our generator doesn't. Like our generator that runs in ArtBlocks doesn't generate any visuals. It just generates the actual Quine code. It generates the code that will then make the visuals and, of course, recreate itself. So to make that, to really lean into that kind of variance, that these are their own little standard standalone little programs, we have different engines. So this is called the ribbon engine. And so these engines just determine like how these colored cells are laid out, like what the visual aesthetic is. We have this ribbon engine. This engine is called Force. And they're just like different algorithms for doing this layout. This is called Glyph engine because it's actually based on the Autoglyph algorithm, loosely based. This is called Shape. And then the last one is, which actually was the first one we created, is called Lattice. And so that's the kind of the quick tour through, so now you can kind of see that you can start to learn to kind of identify them, just by looking at them at a glance, which engine is operating. And then maybe a few other little details is this is maybe the first time we've worked with color in the abstract, like normally, with like MeBits or CryptoPunks, we're just sort of picking colors based on kind of real world things. It's a relatively straightforward process. Autoglyphs were monochrome, but for here, it's like, okay, we want color, but that's not something we've done before, and so it took us a while, it took us many iterations to get to a color scheme that we liked. And we kind of read about how other artists do this, we talked to some people, but it really just came down to like our method was like we had kind of this random color generator that we then started to curate results from. And we eventually, this is sort of our color key here. We eventually got it down to 10 colors, as well as this black and white. And each of these kind of color schemes has like different ratios of the colors, so different likelihoods that the colors would appear. And some of these color schemes are rarer than others. So this last color scheme X is quite rare. And you can see that this very fluorescent kind of pink orange color is relatively rare compared to the black. And so here's an example of a Quine that has that color scheme, and you can see that there's just like little shots of that bright color in there. So so that's sort of like the whirlwind tour, I guess, of Quines. And I think there's probably lots more writing we already have online where we kind of get into a bit more detail about it. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
They look pretty stunning when pulled up like this at size next to one another. And Matt, how we doing over there, by the way? Just checking
Well,
in.
hey, we're done.
Oh,
Oh,
It's
here we
good to
go.
go.
oh, wait. Real quick, before we get there, John, I mentioned this to you off air. What I'm so fascinated with is this concept of a perfect quine, right? And
Yeah,
quine and
and that,
pseudo
and I
quine.
hadn't, yeah, and we hadn't talked about that yet. And so the idea is, the definition of a quine is that it's a computer program that when it's run, it produces its own output. So it kind of is like the self-reproducing program. But so that's what, and so if you have a so-called perfect quine in this project, then that's exactly what it does. It has this visual layout and this code, and when you run that code, it creates the exact same result. But we sort of played with the concept a bit, and we have the concept of kind of like an N quine, like a 2 quine or a 3 quine or a 5 quine, and then those ones actually create little variants that go on a loop. And so if it's a 5 quine, then after you've created 5 variants, that 5th variance code recreates the first one. And then in very rare cases, this is kind of maybe the rarest concept in the project, you have the pseudoquine, which just never comes back. It just creates variants that still have all the same kind of traits and attributes, like they all kind of belong together in a set, but there's an unlimited number, or at least it's limited only by 32-bit integer or something. So maybe you get you get 2 billion or something if you have a pseudocoin. So that's sort of the rarest, craziest version of all this. So I guess it's kind of maybe the most exciting thing about Quine number 0 coming up is what is its quinity? Like, what will it be perfect, pseudo, or more likely the 2, 3, 5, something like that? Yeah.
What is its quinity? We're about to find out. Should we bring? I see him backstage. I feel like he should be here for this. Snowfro, let's bring him in, right? Let's all celebrate this together. Let's do
Sure,
it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Eric, welcome to the stage. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm all right. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
It's so great to be on here with you guys. Thanks for letting me join.
It's an absolute pleasure. And by the way, a good moment to just welcome everybody else in. More than 1,000 of you in the room with us right now. PB, Deconstruct, Tara, Sean Bonner, Vinny, Stones, you're going to be on here in just a minute. Emlo and Rebecca and Half and Rob and Shane and so many more people. Thank you for joining us today on the damn show. Okay, that's the preface. Are we ready to do this?
Yeah.
Ready to look at Quine 0?
Yeah, I hopefully have shared my screen correctly.
I see it, Matt. All right. Drum roll, please.
Oh my goodness.
Here it is. There it is.
Okay, we've got
Quine
ourselves a
number
force.
0.
I got to take my glasses off.
It's 3.
It's a 3. Okay, this
it's
is
a 3.
Yeah. This is a fairly straight up, subliminal. Yeah, just nice. Yeah. Now, do we have a way to view all three generations?
We do.
Or,
we do.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks to the amazing team at ArtBlocks. So there's 0 or whatever, generation 1.
So now it's going to reproduce the next generation.
Sweet.
That was cool.
Yeah. And then let's pick the next one.
Oh, that one's like quite stripped down. That's a really cool. That's a cool variant.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good third one too. Look at that cool like sideways square on the bottom there. That's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. So this would be an example where I might be tempted. So we have this post param features that ArtBlocks provides, where we can choose which of these generations would be kind of our poster, would be like the one, if you browse it on ArtBlocks or OpenSea or wherever else, that's what you would see. And so I'd be a little tempted to pick this second generation just because that's very dramatic. Like I feel like that's a really unusual look for this engine. And but then again, then the third one maybe is maybe just overall like maybe a cooler look or something. So yeah, it's that's I'm really going to be fascinated to see what people gravitate towards with those post params, how often they change it, like all those sort of detail. And it's fun to have that kind of unknown element. Obviously there's the greater unknown element of just like what's going to get minted, what's going to be out there, but also just it's I think there's always something cool about not knowing how users are going to react, how collectors, what are they going to do? That's always kind of an exciting element of a project.
It is. We were talking about this just before we did this mint, but like we were just browsing one of our test galleries, and there's lots in there. You can see all the types and all that thing, but there is this weird, real feeling of like, oh, this is for real now. Like this is actually this is one of these now forever, which
Yeah.
is such an interesting experience.
Hey Matt, is it
Mint-Zero.
possible? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just saying, Mint-Zero is always a terrifying experience.
Oh, yeah.
With this many people watching, it's like, I mean, I'm
terrifying.
Yeah, no, I was like very nervous, even though how many thousands and thousands have we made? You know, Matt,
So
and Matt,
many.
it's like, oh my God, yeah. Once it's, you can never. Yeah, that's why I really liken it to like a live performance. It's like going on stage. You know, it doesn't matter how much you practiced. You know, like, hey Matt, I wonder if it's possible to zoom in to the very bottom right. If we could pull up.
Let's try to do that.
The signature.
As you get the zoom into the signature, I want to expand this live performance. We have Stone
yay.
joining the stage in conversation. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, Stone.
Stone.
Hey, it's so beautiful. My favorite palette.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I love this one. It's like 70s and retro in the best way, I think.
How do I zoom?
Yeah, maybe
Nice.
this page won't quite allow it. Yeah.
Maybe
Is
I
it possible to
can.
just like get that as a like an image URL or something? Maybe not.
Generator.
Oh, if you're in the generator, you might be able to zoom in from here in the generator.
All right.
Try it. Maybe not.
Eric steps into ArtBlock's tech support.
I know.
Once it generates an image, it'll do it.
Yeah. Let's see if I can. Because we're really putting me on the spot here, and my computer skill set is being
Matt thought he was done with the sweaty palms with their back.
I know. I'm gonna do something here, guys. This is actually gonna be pretty cool and impressive.
Yeah, it creates a whole genre of digital art. Can't zoom.
By the way, in comments, Riley O. ETH says toggle enable live rendering on the token page, and you can get the PNG. So we have real time tech support on the damn show.
All right,
Thank you, Riley.
There we go. I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
All right. Toggle.
Oh yeah, on
live.
the left there.
Okay, this is like when you have like your parents have like a tech support problem. You got to tell them how to like read their email.
So just above customize artwork.
It already is live.
Yeah, toggle it off.
Oh, toggle it off.
Now the question is, has it generated that image yet? That's the.
Yeah, it may not have generated the image yet.
It might not.
I guess you could screenshot it and zoom into the screenshot.
I tried that, and the resolution was not what we needed, guys. This is what happens when you do it live, guys.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's give Matt a moment. Hi everybody.
Yeah, let's give Matt a moment. What a great idea.
Eric, question for you, man. The last now you're going to do so much art in your future. We're all confident in that. You're going to experience so much art in your future. We're all confident of that. The final ArtBlocks curated mint number 0 has just occurred. How are you feeling?
Man, it's hard to put words to it. I mean, the last 5 years have been insane, and this really kind of puts a beautiful button on kind of what we've been building over the last 5 years, and kind of gets us ready for whatever comes after it. And I'm really excited about it. I couldn't be more honored to get to work with Matt and John here, and Mint Zero. I mean, I just can't get over the Mint Zero thing, just because we used to do this in Bright Moments, but just in the room of artists that were part of each city, we'd all have kind of a Mint Zero moment. It was just 10 people, and it was like incredibly stressful. And so knowing there's 1,000 people that watch that, that alone is kind of a really cool way to end it as well. And it makes me think we should have done live Mint Zeros maybe more often. But the world that we're kind of heading into, like it really feels really special, having this be a part of it. So many people have come together to kind of make this thing happen, and Stone, the ArtBlocks team, have really kind of like brought this thing to really be able to highlight Matt and John's work, and it just feels really special to kind of end it this way.
Yeah, I think really like to thank the Art Blocks team and Stone, live on air. There's so much work that went into this from them, and all the post param stuff, and we really wanted to get the concept across really well, and the team just did such a good job of all that. So it's been a joy working with everybody, and yeah, it's such an honor now. It's like, oh, we're Art Blocks artists now. Like, it's official. We're like part of that group. We were always sort of like in and around, but not officially members, and so that's a great feeling.
And we finally have an answer now when someone asks us who's your favorite Art Blocks artist. I'm like, it's me.
That's awesome.
I got good news, guys. I was able to zoom off screen, and it's actually, I got to tell you, it was worth it. Look how cool that signature is.
There
Oh
it
my
is.
Oh yeah. So this is because because this is just code. We're able to kind of throw a comment in at the end of the code, and so we're able to kind of sign the code at the end. And it gets like the code gets kind of broken up by the artwork a little bit, but when it doesn't get broken up, we call that a clean sig. That's been what the term that Stone and Matt and I have been throwing around. And so this is like a variant of a clean sig where it's like Larva Labs on its own and on the bottom. So that's always kind of a fun element to these things, is see how the sig worked out at the end of the and you can see that it says like Quine, Quine, and it includes like the generation number. So that 0.1 is the generation number, and if you move on to the next one, it'll say 0.2 and everything. So it really kind of locks in that that signature for each one.
And the 000 is from at 0.
That's right.
Sweet.
So yes,
I think
next one will be 1.
This is a great time too, just to loop in an audience question from Rebecca Rose. It says, can you deep dive some of the numerology and symbolism behind Quine?
Whoa.
Ooh, deep dive
Heavy
numerology.
question. Heavy
Good
question.
question, Rebecca.
Yeah.
I feel like at least one of those primary
Yeah.
numbers, which I'm mad at you for now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The quinity numbers are primes just for, I don't know what reason, but it's definitely causing everybody problems, we've found out now.
Yeah, in terms of laying them out, if you try to print them all. Yeah, I think like these engines are all driven because everything had to be so simple, because we only have so much code to work with, and that code needs to include the code to like loop on itself and everything. These engines all had to be very tiny, and so we pull a lot of really simple kind of like kinematics, Newtonian sort of forces kind of stuff in to do these renderings. So you get a lot of kind of parabolic and hyperbolic shapes. You get kind of forces applied that kind of bend and warp things. And so that's sort of a kind of like it's all kind of, a lot of what we do, I guess, is always kind of pulling from that kind of mathematics and physics based stuff. So that there's that's kind of the driving thing behind how these look.
That's like I think sort of similar to like Autoglyphs, which was one type of like field function, and then is almost like quantized to a grid, and so it produces this sort of limited version of a continuous function or field. And so now there's a few different ones of those. Like each engine almost has its own one of those, but then it's all quantized to the same sort of pixel grid kind of thing to make them look similar. So
Stone, what went into this? Take us behind the scenes. Take us into the process.
Well, I've learned that Dr. John Watkinson is very particular about grammar.
I come from a technical writing background, okay?
And I have a master's in literature, and I was getting schooled on the reg. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I've had the honor to be in conversation with Matt and John for many years, right? But I've never had I've never been intimately watching their process until now. And actually, it's been interesting because we're working on the Node exhibition and also this new project. And I've realized what goes into it is like every single day they're grinding. Every single day they're pushing. Every single day they're trying to like break their own systems. and they set the bar of what is good enough is actually the worst output. Worst, that's all subjective. That's how they decide that something is ready. And then they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And and I only, I'm towards, probably the second half of this process, but there was just this point where there were so many quines coming every single day out that there was this inside joke that we called quine eyes. That there's like a certain point where you like can't see them anymore, and when we were trying to pick our favorites or pick our favorite generations, etc. So that was one aspect of it, was just like such deep iteration and repetition. And then I'd say, like, I guess the part that I was maybe more involved in was just like an extreme precision on how we communicate and talk and name. And there's like this whole, I guess, nomenclature that gets created around every project, like even choices between what do we call these, various outputs of Quine? Are they generations? Are they this? And again, it's a lot of rigor and precision and care got put into it. So that would be my recap of the process.
Let's go around the room here. It doesn't have to, I'm not going to hold you to every single trait. You don't have to sort of define your exact perfect Quine, but what does come to mind that if this is your mint, so we just witnessed mint 0, if this is your mint and it's going to your collection, your wall, make a call. What aspect of that Quine would you call your shot on? And Stone, I'm going to put you right to the fire.
Oh man,
you first.
I don't know. Quine 0 it had a lot of the traits, had some of my favorite palette. And then I also really have fallen in love with Force as an engine because it feels very much like a textile and like feels like kind of drawn from these more like folklore, like native traditions. So I'm kind of a Force girl right now. It changes.
You know what, John, I'm going to put your screen up here because I think it helps to marry some of this with the visuals. But why don't you take it next?
Yeah, I think I have one open here. Let me just find it. I still kind of love the Lattice engine the best, just because it was the first that we made, and there's just something kind of wild about it that I like. And then this one being liminal as well. We didn't make a majority of them liminal because I feel like they need to kind of be a bit rare. Like they're a little too much if there's too many of them. Here's somewhere here I have it zoomed in. Yeah. But I like a liminal lattice is probably my favorite, and just because it's so kind of boldly stating the like the concept.
Matt, how about you?
There's an interesting experience where we were picking our like heroes for like marketing and so on, and I was like, I thought I had in my mind what were my favorites, but it kept changing. Like I think 73 there, for example, I believe that's like a glyph engine. I think these are kind of my favorites. These are one of the
It's a perfect one.
Oh, I got good taste. It is basically, I think what's part of this is it was one of the last engines we got right for it, or that made the cut, because it was kicking around the whole time. We couldn't, as Natalie was saying, like our process is really iterative. We just keep trying and until it either makes the cut or it doesn't. So Glyph is one of the last ones. So maybe in also my Quine eyes, I'm responding to it being the newest, but and colors, I like ones that have like a relatively low amount of a very bright highlight color. That's usually some of my favorite. BX is a good, see, there's BX. I like that kind of color scheme is for me.
Yeah.
All right, Eric.
The Glyph engine was kind of the hardest to get right, Matt? Like that one, we threw it out and then brought it back a couple times and everything. So that was definitely the most drama.
I think it had one. Like Natalie was saying too, it had a problem where it's like worst case outputs were quite bad, but even average case was challenging for a while. But it would generate some winners, which is again that weird thing where if we could cherry pick these things easy, then we just go pick the good ones. But it was only about 30% of what it was outputting would be something we would consider keeping. So we were going to have to throw the whole thing out unless we figured it out.
And we've done like multiple sample galleries, and it is interesting because I mean, look at 17. I mean, 117 is such a stunner. But yeah, we would do multiple like galleries, and it would sort of change what engine sort of rose to the top. Like I really feel like I'll be able to identify what's my favorite really on that output. It's almost crazy how much diversity can happen when you get the right combination, different combinations of traits. Like they really, have so many more outputs and variations than you'd expect.
It is almost 5 little projects in one. Like each engine is basically its own algorithm, which is kind of a bad idea. Like no wonder it was hard to get it working. I didn't quite think of that until later though, but yeah.
The callback to the glyph I think is just so cool, and I have to say that's my favorite. I think we live in these very narrow-minded kind of space sometimes, and we forget about our past and our history. And I feel like being able to build on top of that is magical without just purely copying what you had done in the past. I think the glyph palette, and then I'm a huge sucker for blue and pink. So I think you just kind of nailed it here.
Yeah.
In terms of I think the thing I got most excited about this project was the idea of diptychs, triptychs, and grids. Obviously, a perfect quine is going to be awesome, but I really am excited about what these look like printed. How these look printed, they print really well, and I'm really excited about creating hopefully I get some of the bigger quines so that I can create like a really beautiful grid in my house. I think it's going to pair really nicely, and then obviously this will pair really nicely with a set of glyphs that. It's this history. There's a history here. There's 8 years of history kind of building up to this project, and I think Larva Labs has always done a really good job of kind of learning from the past and building from the past and into the future. And so whatever comes next, I think is going to be really, really interesting to see that lineage. But yeah, the glyph palette. I mean, the glyph type for me, and the pink and blue for sure. I also like the one that just has pink in it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that occurs now and again. Yeah.
And the names BX, does that stand for anything, or are those like color names? Or
all we did was assign a letter to each color, and then so this is basically S is one of the blue, because we have multiple blues. One of them just got the letter S, so S, T, and O, and the T is like a teal kind of, and then O is orange. So. And then the black is always present, so we don't mention that explicitly. So because we were like, we don't want to be out there. It just didn't feel comfortable for us to, like morning sky or something. We tell you name palettes. It's just like, let's just go technical with the names. Yeah.
Can you switch to? Can you show the colors diagram again for a sec there, John? I just wanted to see STO's ratio.
Yeah,
and that's
so
what we just got.
The O is pretty uncommon, yeah, and that's all just sort of aesthetic tweaking to get to these kind of ratios, yeah. This is just on average, of course. Like there's lots of randomness, but this is kind of the on average where you end up with in terms of color ratios in each of the schemes.
John, what did you just show on camera that we were all small? Let me just take this. Quick.
This is the print. We did a bunch of test prints, and they do print up really nice. Like obviously it's going to be hard to see on camera, but we've been happy with the prints we've done so far. And so like you, Eric, we're looking forward to having some triptychs or quintics or whatever you want to call the higher number ones up on our wall. Yeah.
I love my digital art, but everything I actually have in my house of Larva Labs is printed, and it prints well. And I think there's something really cool about that, right? Because it's a good balance. Like if everything's screens, I'd have a third eye growing. But having so many different things in physical is great, and knowing that this will look really good printed.
I was just going to say, I think it's also like become like obvious, at least to us, that there's no there's no tension there. Like you can like just because it's digital art doesn't mean you can't have a print of it. It's actually totally fine. Like and that's been a nice. We sort of realized that like over time too, when people were like, "Oh, I made a print of my autoglyph. Like, is that okay?" And we're like, "Yeah, it's great. Sure." Like it's not in competition with the like digital version of it. In fact, it's just a nice way to show it and enjoy it. So.
I imagine a number of people are coming off of their Toledo visits where there were autoglyphs being constantly plotted. I saw so many roll tubes leaving there and going on various airplanes around the world.
Yeah, and that's kind of a nice thing about it. That was always, that was like the kind of grand experiment with CryptoPunks is like anyone can just like view and print and enjoy any of these 10,000 punks. So does this work as ownership? And it does. And then what's nice about that is then it's sort of a more generous form of ownership where it's like, I own this punk, but everyone can enjoy it, as opposed to a painting, held in some dusty living room somewhere or in a free port, in Switzerland or something. It's like everyone can enjoy it. So that's been a really nice sort of secondary effect of all this.
It's public art.
Abigail from Avant Art taught me this when we were doing the CryptoPunks prints, but like the tradition of print, like actually it's this aspect of like really celebrated important works of art get printed so that they can get seen by more eyes. And that actually like elevates the status of the art back in the tradition of, printmaking back in the day. And I'm like, all right, that's true. That makes sense.
Stone, we did a recent DAM show just 2 weeks ago. We had a tour of the Avant Art print floor, and they were talking about specifically the CryptoPunks printing and just having to make those colors perfect because there are some that didn't exist. And so they really had to iterate quite a number of times to get to an end product they were satisfied with.
Yeah. That's actually so interesting in translating like physical to digital or digital to physical rather, was the alien blue does not exist in the physical world. Like it actually relies on the luminosity of a screen to exist, which is so cool. Yeah.
There's a word I would love for everyone to sort of take the mic and talk about a bit, and that's evolution. So you mentioned CryptoPunks. There's a tweet that came out of the Larva Labs account talking about Node Foundation and an upcoming opening there in January of next year. And here's the quote. When we created CryptoPunks, we built them as a living on-chain experiment meant to be traded, owned, and here's the keyword, evolved. So this idea of evolving art where we're evolving where a number of us look at art on our phone screens or, the tech we interact with on our computer is evolving. Everything's evolving at sort of the speed of light, it feels like sometimes. And then other times it feels like very slowly. Talk about Quine as far as the evolution of it and where do you see Quine going in the coming years?
Hey, can't be sure, but I do think that, maybe in the just to go back, when we made CryptoPunks, we weren't thinking of it as an art project because we were just sort of solving these kind of technical and product questions. It's like, can people collect this? Can we make these? Will people respond to this? How do you write a smart contract? All those things we were trying to figure out. And then kind of similar with autoglyphs, but it sort of learned and had, once again, kind of had it pitch back to us that it's like, this being kind of nerdy and focusing on a lot of these sort of tech things is also valid expression, that it's just as valid as kind of more maybe what you would consider more traditional artistic expression. And so we didn't shy away from the nerdiness with Quine for that reason. We sort of become comfortable with that it's like, yeah, our stuff is going to be nerdy and it's going to appeal to people who care about these kind of tech concepts and everything. And Quine is very hackable. The code's is right there, and you can just kind of run it very easily. It sort of puts itself, it's almost like begs for that. So there might be some kind of hacking and messing around with Quines that happens. And so that's a possible evolution that we're sort of being very playful, I think, with this project in that way. And so that's a possibility, but at the same time, I feel like you can never predict exactly how people are going to respond or how it's going to evolve after you put it out in the world.
I think also we think of this, like John was saying, like this is an extension of a nerdy set of technologies, but and part of that one, that's fine. Two, they're sort of like interactive, but in nature, you know, like on a few different levels. And so I think that's what we've come to realize is what's interesting to us about like CryptoPunks, is that there's you know, when we were creating CryptoPunks, it was like, sure, the imagery, yes, but the success for us would be based on whether people interact with this thing. In CryptoPunks example, that's via transactions and value and this weird little art market. And so I think that's sort of one of the things we're interested in in this as a medium. And so for Quine, it's like even having this post-param support is part of that. Quine is a little odd in that most of the time, even like something that we worked hard on with Autoglyphs was like, it's one of one. You get one thing that's new for digital. And then we're like, well, what if you got some more? Like that's Quine is like, let's give you a couple bonus potentially could be thrown in there. And so your relationship to that is defined by which one you like the best. You can select it and how you present it, like Eric's talking about, as printing as a, you know, as a triptych or whatever, which is I think really cool too. So, and I think we're just sort of interested to see what people do with that. You know, that's sort of what's I think interesting to us about all of this is like it's only real once it's out in the world and people are interacting with it and choosing what they think is important about it, what they find, you know, interesting about it, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and to launch a project and not have a bit of that uncertainty, to not have that feeling of like, I don't know what people are going to do, I don't know how they're going to interact with this. You know, that would be kind of sad. Like it's nice to have that feeling of we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how people are going to use this or respond to this exactly. That kind of that thrill, it feels necessary to be doing something that feels new to us.
Eric, what do you foresee? Oh, go ahead, Stone. You go first.
I guess the obvious is like Quinester, you know, that's probably coming up soon.
God.
Oh, yeah.
No, but you know what comes up?
Fast food Quines.
Fast food Quines, hell yeah.
Quines, yeah. But on a more serious note, what comes up for me around evolution is actually like what it takes to evolve, and that's actually synthesis, and that's actually taking the best bits of what came before. And I think that Quine is really like, and I've said this before, like such a quintessential Larva Labs project and really has so many notes from the past. So I think what's most exciting about Quine for me is to see how this is the next chapter in Larva Labs practice and, you know, what comes after that. So, yeah.
You said quintessential. I could quintessential. I don't
Quintessential.
know. I'm a puns guy. You know,
There's
bad
so
jokes
many
for
puns.
days.
Oh yeah,
Really
the puns
been-
have been flying on this
Yeah,
project.
it's
Yeah,
really been a struggle.
Quine rhymes with a lot of things, so that's the good
yeah.
one.
We received a few Quine grats emails after we announced it. Like you name it. Yeah.
Fine Quining.
Fine Quining. Yeah, we
Fine
went out to
Quining.
dinner. That's true.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Eric, from Art Block's perspective, what do you think down the road? Final curated Art Blocks 500. Where's your mind go?
You know, I think I say this pretty often that the more confident you are that you know what the future holds, the more likely you are to be wrong. And, you know, in some ways, there's a lot of things that I was really confident about in the past that did go as planned and a lot of things that didn't. And I feel I think maybe there's some tension there that's actually joy. And sometimes we have so much pressure on us that sometimes we don't get to like enjoy that joy. But we go back to like Punk's Discord in 2017 and 2018, and like the world was ours, and like there was nothing but like, you know, imagination of where this was going to go. And, you know, we feel like we have come a really long way over the last few years. A tremendous amount of progress has been made, but we're still very niche. This is still like a very small group of people. And there's a lot of different paths here. We could stay niche, and this could be like the nichest thing in the world. Or we, you know, like to the point of, you know, these glyphs being sold at Toledo, you know, to get that glyph, all you needed to do was become a member for $75. And like thinking about how this impacts, there's ways that this starts impacting, you know, established organizations, established institutions, that feels good, that keeps people engaged and gets people involved with culture and the arts. I don't think that we're going to look at art the same way in 50 years as we look at it today, or maybe we looked at it just 10 years ago. I think I think what digital art has kind of done is it's kind of lowered the slightly lower the arrogance of what it takes to be able to have a conversation and be able to talk about art, be able to like enjoy art and not feel weird about it. The idea of not knowing what you're going to get before you mint is special, because it reduces the need to make an aesthetic decision before you buy something, before you actually kind of like put something together. And all of these unlocks, I think, individually, independently, they've had a tremendous impact in where we are today. But when all of these things kind of start, evolving out into the real world, I think we're going to see some crazy changes. But the most important part, I think, is the democratization of this. That democratization of the arts is maybe one of the top reasons why I launched Art Blocks, is to make art accessible to everybody. And we get a lot of slack for not allow listing, and we get a lot of slack for not, but at this point, we will have, by the end of this year, 500 projects, of which were available to all and to any. And I know that doesn't always work, and it's rough, but it really feels special to kind of been able to dig into that, that kind of democratized nature, knowing that the world will always push against that. The world will always kind of push towards creating groups of people that are more elite or more special or more important or whatever. Art Blocks, the digital art space as a whole, it really has helped make people feel like they're individual contributors or part of something that maybe would have felt impossible just a few years ago. So when I think about the evolution, I really think about that. I think about, what does this mean for collecting art in the future? What does it mean for getting new generations to be able to have conversations around art? There are, I don't know, a handful of people out there that probably don't have an artistic background, that are on Twitter every day sharing art, that probably know more about this digital art ecosystem than a, I don't know, doctor, I don't know, like a PhD in the arts would know about just like the entire art world before that. Like, we know because you lived it, you saw it, you saw people come and go, the releases, what happened on the releases, like these are encyclopedias. And it's really exciting to see what that looks like in a few years, especially as time goes by and time heals some wounds. 21, 22 was pretty tough all around 23, 24. But I do think that I'll stop rambling and just say, back in 21, I'd get interviewed for articles, and I'd say, look, this is all going to be crazy until we hit some level of homeostasis. And homeostasis isn't welcome by a lot of the crypto ecosystem, because we are very much in a number go up ecosystem. And so homeostasis doesn't feel great when the intention of participation is short-term gains, but long-term homeostasis will be like a really important part of all of this. And I think we're closer to homeostasis than we've ever been. And that, I think, will open up a whole bunch of opportunities for the future, both for Art Blocks, for Larva Labs, for this ecosystem, for just the digital art space as a whole. So I'm really excited about it. I don't know what's to come. We are still in a canoe with little paddles going down rapids, but we I do feel like the paddles got a little bit longer over the last 6 months, and I'm really excited about that.
Just hearing you talk, the relationship of exclusivity and inclusivity. And I think, as John or Matt earlier mentioned the word generous, just generous expression of the ownership of art. Really interesting here to think forward. Yes, 497. Yes, in one sense, a limited group of ownership, but in another sense, just thinking through future plottings and all sorts of other things that will, in my opinion, be inevitable. The expression thereof, we'll see, but inevitable that other things are done. And so that is very inclusive by nature. So we shall see there. One thing I want to do that we haven't exactly delineated yet, let's talk about how the heck this thing happens on October 9th, which is this Thursday. We stand here on October 6th. Thursday coming at us fast. Who wants to field that question?
I think, Eric, you're best to
Yeah, sure. So it's a 24-hour English auction. It'll start on October 9th and it'll end on October 10th, 24 hours later. and it's just a standard English auction. Anybody can bid. Look, we have done some tremendous amount of hardening over the last few months, especially kind of in anticipation of this drop, and kind of what we did with Jack Butcher a couple of weeks ago. And but in the end, this is crypto, and I think people, I know people don't like to hear this, but just get your bids in early, and also, people often kind of remind me of these Discord announcements that I would make back in like the early days of Art Blocks, and I'd say, look, please go pay off your car, or please go pay down your mortgage, make rational decisions. I know it's hard. I know there's like FOMO, and I know there's anticipation, but in the end, this is it's crypto. It's just it's a crazy environment. So I encourage people to put their bids in early. We have significantly more just preparation, I guess, for this one, and but you never know. And it'll be really interesting to watch the auction, both at the beginning. It's so interesting that now that we've seen not just Art Blocks but across the board English auctions, it's so interesting to see how they kind of start trickling in the first few hours, and then those last 3 hours kind of leading up to it. Just kind of it's fascinating to see how that comes together, because everything's on chain, everything's public. You can see what's going on. You can see the transactions that mempool. You can see how much people are upping their bid. It's truly fascinating. And at the end of the auction, we check everything's clean and in order, and then at that point we start minting them in batches of 100. And I don't know if we're still doing that, but that's because OpenSea has a anti-airdrop kind of mechanism where if you mint more than 100 things at a time, it flags you as an airdrop. So we, at least in the past, we mint them in batches of 100, and then everyone gets their refund at the same time that the mints are happening. And then the last thing I'll say, is that this is an English auction with settlement. So everybody in the auction will pay the same amount as the lowest bid in the auction. So 477 or however many are going into this auction. No matter what the highest price is, the price across the board. So you will get refunded the difference between those two. If you are outbid, you'll get refunded immediately. If you're in the auction at the end, you'll get the difference at the end of the auction as those NFTs start being minted and start getting cleared. And then we can all kind of look around and celebrate. And I can look for my pink and blue glyph on the secondary market like a madman if I don't get one. But you could if you see me mint one of those, you know that I'll be freaking out.
You just totally screwed yourself on
I
trying
just
to come
jinxed
with everybody's like, I know what Eric's going for.
Oh, that's so true. Damn it. That happens.
What is the destiny of Mint Zero? So I think 497 total, 477 go to auction on Thursday into Friday. Where does Zero fall in? Is that Larva Labs forever? Does that have another destiny to it?
That's Larva Labs vault, right? I think, yeah,
probably.
Are you guys gonna arm wrestle for it?
I know.
Larva Labs is plural.
Maybe to the consternation of our heirs, we just share all of our NFTs. There's no separation. Yeah.
Most Mint Zeros have been kept by the artists. I'd say out of the 500 projects, you probably have 490 that have been kept by the artists. I screwed up my brother's first mint, and so it was I opened up the minter before he was able to mint it. So that's one example. There's like 4 or 5 other examples that have not been kept, but for the most part, Mint Zeros are with the artists, and I think that's it's pretty cool. And one day those things will have. It's a cool tradition, and then I think in the future, I think those will have an interesting kind of sentimental value, both for the artist, but also if it ends up in the hands of a collector. I think just watching Mint Zero happen here today, for example, 1,000 people watched it come together. It's got its own value proposition there as well.
Yeah.
As we get close to the end of the show here, just was one more thing. So the pseudo quines and the perfect quines. I mentioned my mind was stuck there earlier. How many-ish of each of these quines can we expect?
I believe about 10 pseudoquines. That's the
Oh
rarest. And I
man,
think, yeah, that's it. And then maybe 20 perfects would be like the expected number, about 4% perfect, about 2% pseudo. So yeah, those are going to be pretty hard to come by. Yeah.
damn.
But yeah, the pseudo,
Fascinating.
at pseudo, we wanted to hold that back as a kind of a very special thing, since it almost like breaks the model a little bit. It's like, oh, there's this almost effectively unlimited number. So it's like, all right, that should be pretty special.
Full set
Yeah,
of
I think.
coins on its
Oh.
way into my wallet.
Well, see, and I'm
Well,
curious
no.
here, do you want all
No
the
pressure.
numbers? Do you want all the quantities, or do you want all the engines? Like,
Good
what is
point.
a full set?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Uh,
true. It's not obvious. Yeah.
It's not.
I imagine. I imagine an engine set's probably going to be a little more attainable than
Oh yeah.
every
The
single
engines
end.
are all about equally distributed. We didn't
Oh,
really
cool.
bias the
That's a good
engines at
set.
all. Yeah. So that's a simple set. But yeah, the quantity is where I guess the real rarity kicks in here.
The only reason I was able to collect all the autoglyphs is because I minted a 10. Like it just never would have. I never would have thought, okay, I'm gonna go for the whole set, right? But working down felt a lot more reasonable than working up. So I just need to get that perfect quine.
The most casual flex ever just drops in the conversation. Full set
It's
of
years
autoglyphs.
now. It's years. Don't forget how many people cared back then. It was I wouldn't say as much of a flex as like a deranged like need to collect one of everything. I don't I'd say it's far from a flex and more of like this guy needs help.
If I'm not mistaken, you have a full Meebit set too, as well, right?
I do, full Meebit set and almost a full punk set.
I mean,
that little asterisk on my alien.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby. No, I'm a big fan. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm a big fan.
We appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, we traded you for your 9 glyph. That was
That's
trade.
right.
That was a fun one. Yep.
And I think y'all helped me with one of I think the orange side or one of the punks that was just not listed on the market. I think you guys also helped me out with that one too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right. Sounds familiar. Yep.
I led the show with Eric, a quote of yours prior to you joining us, just about the respect that is here and the meaning of this moment and the fact that you attribute part of art blocks existing in the first place to some of the downstream effects that these guys created with Larva Labs. I think that's amazing stuff. I think John and Matt, I would ask you, that's a bit of a standing on the shoulders of giants type statement. Who are your giants?
He's right here. It's Eric. I mean, I feel like he's just the soul of this space. I mean, that's all you can say there. I mean, he's fought the good fight through difficult times. Like we we took a break, for a while, and he didn't. He's just been like fighting this at times very difficult fight, always with the heart of gold, always with that long-term goal with the artists and the community in mind. So yeah, we just can't appreciate him enough, and I feel like this whole community is glued together by Snowfro.
I appreciate that, John. That means a lot. I discovered who Solo was because of the glyphs. I mean, I think it's just how many people discovered things that they just would never have stumbled upon if it wasn't for kind of the way that you guys put this together and kind of created this lineage. So yeah, it's awesome.
I think I would maybe add that to like the previous generation of generative artists and even instruction art, which Toledo did. The Toledo show does such a great job of connecting to all of this, and we really learned about this in reverse, where we were just kind of out there doing whatever, and then once people started mentioning to us like, oh, this reminds me of this, and so we really went on sort of a learning journey there and finding out about just how much stuff had been done prior, and how and it's truly impressive. So there's this long tradition there too that we're pretty excited to be a part of.
Let's pass this mic around one last time. Just any closing words, comments, quantities, wherever you'd like to go. Stone, let's start with you.
Well, I've said this before, but they say never meet your heroes. But I get to work with my heroes. And Matt and John are such incredibly kind human beings that are so humble. And Eric, too, to be honest. And I guess the space is really lucky to have them, and to emulate their DNA and their way of being in this world would be my like mantra and takeaway for how this space can evolve, to echo back to that question.
Beautiful. Eric, final words?
Yeah, thank you, Matt and John. It's like such a huge honor. And Roger, thanks for hosting us. Stone, you've killed it. It's been just incredible to watch you work. And just if anyone on the Art Blocks team is out there listening, I mean, I just can't express my gratitude enough. The care and the love. It's not just like building websites. It's, you know, it's care and love and attention and pride. And I think, if anything, there's been a lot of moments of pride in the last 5 years, and they're the things that get us out of bed. And this is absolutely at the top of that list. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and I hope everyone enjoys their quines and get your bids in early, please. Fine print.
John, last words for today.
Yeah, just just can give you a shout out to the community, to everyone listening. We there was so much that went on in 21, 22, and we sort of ducked away for a while. But it just feels like, as we've been kind of dipping our toes back into the community more, it just feels like so many more people are here for the right reasons. That it's been very welcoming. The reason we're here today with a new project is because of that the space just feels very like healthy and welcoming in a way that we hadn't felt in a while. So just just wanted to just say that it's nice. It's a nice feeling to be back. Yeah.
Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I would echo that from John for sure. We were, and I think part of, for me, what's so nice being back is working with, like, we've never worked with anyone before, basically, with a couple exceptions. So and also, so Natalie, seeing this process, I think, is one of the first people to be involved in that. Also, we didn't make any attempt to preserve previous. We didn't even think we were doing a process. We were just like, oh, whatever. But it's been really. That's been part of what's made this fun, and part of what it makes me happy to be doing it again, is working with the Art Blocks team, Eric, Natalie, for sure. And that feels like, I feel like we've just sort of maybe figured out a little bit of what it is that we're trying to do, and have taken stock of things and thought about it. Part of that has been conversations with people. Part of that has been watching Art Blocks, watching artists, watching some of our heroes, people who've made things that, we really admire, participate in that. And I think it's sort of led us to a new understanding of what we're trying to do here, and how cool and exciting it is to just be a part of all this. Maybe, as Eric said, maybe it'll stay niche forever, but that's fine. I like this niche. I'm good. So yeah, it feels, the whole process has felt really good.
A living experiment. I want to rattle through my thank yous. I just want to thank each and every one of you. Matt and John, I don't take it lightly that Mitten Zero happened here, and you chose to do it sweaty palms and all, both off and on camera. Just the fact that you were here to share it with us, and everyone joining us, means an awful lot. I wish you guys the absolute best of luck on Thursday into Friday. Eric, man, after all that time of no damn show, now it's been twice in 2 short months. Let's go. And I'm sure it'll be soon after this. Appreciate you, man, for being here a second time. And congrats on Art Blocks 500 and the spirit animal, my spirit animal that I've never been to, Marfa. I will see you there. And I can't
wait to see you.
Cannot wait. Stone, you're the absolute best. It's been a pleasure just talking behind the scenes and making this a reality, and just so appreciate your attention to detail, your intelligence, dedication, execution to the nines. Thank you. Everybody who joined us, more than 1,000 of you here for the Mint, more than 2,000 now. I'm sure, we'll get this up on YouTube and sort of perpetuate this conversation. I think it's an important one. I hope you enjoyed it. There's actually literally too many of you in the comments to go through and mention. Usually that's my trademark, to go through every one of you. I see you. I appreciate you. We have another amazing one on the way next week. Next Monday is going to be with Han and Crypto Cubes and creators, and we'll have some goodness coming there. All right, Thursday, art blocks, Quine. Let's go. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.